So welcome back. Here is the final module, number 4, as we complete this global bike data for pre-work, right? Um, I'll walk you through this, and you should have your Tableau completed for this and your participation. Remember, it's due tomorrow, right? Let me bring up module 4 so we can kind of look at what we got going on here. The first part of this module, we'll do some renaming. So nothing really too complicated. We'll convert some variables to measured, which you'll see that they highlight as a green, right? So the hashtag that we calculated, that's kind of like a measured variable. So you'll see that. And as we kind of go through, we'll do some manipulation with graphs and charts, kind of further looking at how data can be used with filters, which is really cool. Okay. And you'll see pages 5 through 7 are really more informational of what all the menu items and icons reference, right? So you'll be able to kind of note that. I won't spend a whole lot of time on this because I took so much time on module 3. Okay, but it is useful, and you have a copy of this, right? And we'll kind of navigate through, build out a couple of charts, show you how easy it is to kind of flip back and forth from like a tree like this, right? And that should be a wrap. I will say this: one student did reach out and said, "Hey, I adjusted my year, and so I got it right in my towards the end of this, right? But it changed the my sheet. When we toggle sometimes the year data from back and forth from discrete or continuous, it can kind of mess with your charts a little bit. So that's something to note. It doesn't necessarily lock it down per se to the sheet because it's that field is kind of anchored throughout the Tableau software, right? So it's important to know that. Okay. All right, so I'm going to close this out. Oops. Okay, so the first part of this talks about sheets, which I showed you in class on Wednesday. The easy way to add a sheet is click this little icon down here, and it's kind of like Excel. We'll keep adding and adding, and it's kind of like our workspace, right? So let's go over here. You could read it more, and we'll cover it in the class, like story and dashboards, right? So just different ways to kind of look at the data. All right. One thing in particular, we're going to join the currency file. We really won't use it in this module, but you will use this going forward. And so let's go over there. All right, so we're in the data. This is kind of grayed out at the moment. We can perform another, additional analyses here. But right now, let's join, and not join, that's a bad word. Let's add another data source. If it's not there and you know it's there, click on Files, and there it is, Currency, Open. Not a big deal. Tableau sometimes does this. Just close out and do it again, and it should populate. And there we be. Let's go back to our sheet. So here's the additional data source that we added. And if you're following along, it asks, we're going to rename these here shortly. It's asking, well, are these things joined? And the answer is no, they're not. We just added another source into this per se project, but we've not added any type of inner join or outer join like we did in module 2. So the answer is no, they're not connected. They're kind of separate right now, right? Eventually we will join them. So how do we rename? Click on the data base per se. Right click and just rename, because in there it's asking us to rename the sales transaction to sales data, I believe. Yeah, sales data. Click OK. And then for the currency, it's asking us, if you're following along, I am on page 3. It says rename it to currency conversion. So it's right click. We can see all of our options here, right? So rename currency conversion. Okay, so in the instructions, as if you're navigating through this, it says make sure that you're on the right one, and you can tell that because we got all our fields populated here. Okay, all right. So we've renamed a couple of our data sources. It's important to know that as we navigate through Tableau. And I've already answered the question. They are not joined. So we're on a data tab, right? And I've cross-referenced this throughout the modules, but even on the lecture on Wednesday, this is called our pane, right? So you'll see obviously we got our filters and we got cards and things of the such throughout. And this is kind of like our canvas where we kind of build stuff, right? So, all right, show me. You can turn that on and off just by clicking it, okay? Let's rename our sheet down here. My sheet. Okay, so we'll build out a few things here, then we'll add another sheet, and then we'll be finished. All right. So we've added a new sheet. We've renamed it, and it says here, go back to the data tab. We're there, and right-click each field. You'll notice a down arrow, which let's get right to the point of the product cost. Okay, so this is what it's talking about. So we can add this to the sheet. We could change it to discrete, convert it to a dimension. It's a calculated right now, so it's a measured variable. So that's why we're seeing with this green. All these are being measured, right? And in your instructions, though, it says let's convert the sales order number from a dimension to a measure. So let's go find it. Sales order. Okay. And it said from a dimension to a measure. You could kind of tell as we're looking at this that it's already a measure because it's greened out. If we convert it to a dimension, it turns it to blue, right? So we're kind of already in a measure, so not a big deal there. The main thing I guess is kind of toggling back and forth is for you to see if we were blued, right? You wouldn't be able to see that. We would have that option to choose it as a measure. Okay. I want to move through pages 5 through 7 rather quickly so that we can kind of keep moving in the essence of time. All right, so now let's build a chart. Let's go back a little bit. There we go. Okay, so customer description. On the row. Okay, and it says let's do our order number. Sales order number. And there we go. Right? So we can kind of sort this. We want to look at it from most to least. Okay. So it's kind of a way we can kind of move them back and forth in the data to look at counts of the sales order data. All right. If we were to look at it from a tree perspective, moving along, this is the way that'd be populated. It still has our data here, right? We could go change if we wanted to change the color. We can kind of see where it's most concentrated and least. That's what this is showing, greatest to least. Okay. All right. Moving back, it's just kind of cool. If we want it like I showed you on Wednesday, Okay. We could change the columns and rows like so. So we can kind of look at it in a different way, just depending on how you want to kind of view the data. And let's see here. It says add year as a column and change it to a line chart. Okay, let's do it. And let's go to year. Wait a second, what's that look like, right? There. Fix it. Okay. All right. Let's see here. We've got our year populated as such. You'll you'll see this whenever we add our next sheet. This most likely, because we're going to do some things with the year, kind of converting it back and forth, it may make it look funny, or we may not see this populate, but there's some things we'll turn it back once so you can see it. All right. On to page 10. It says create a new sheet, and let's call it bike sales volume. All right, so let's do it. Okay. And it lays it out quite easily on what we're going to drag into our columns and rows. Following along, create a category. Okay, so let's do the category. Let's clear this off. Category description in a row. And let's do product in a row. Make sure you use this one because this one's in hierarchy. Okay. That's okay. It's showing this when we have the ABC. It's basically denoting we don't have any quantitative data to populate. That's all it is. So nothing big there. Let's do sales organization. Okay, and then lastly, the sum of the quantity. And there we go. Okay. So now we've created this measurement so that we can kind of look at data partitioned out. Okay. Now here's where we're going to shift gears a little bit. We're almost finished. Is we'll turn on filters, right? All right. It says here on page 10, if you're following along, drag division to the filter. So let's go to division. Okay. And we're going to drag it up here to our filter. All right. So what are we going to do here? Well, we're going to show all for now. Okay. And apply and OK. This is going to give us the ability to, it's almost like an MRI of the data per se, or almost like a 3D. I say MRI. It's almost like a way to kind of look at the data from a different angle when we start adding these filters on, right? So we got division. What we need to do though, so that we can partition it, is show that filter, and that populates over here. So if we want to just look at one division, okay? Okay, so next, the category description. We'll drag it over, and all, yep. Okay, let's turn that filter on so we can look at it. And it goes through, it says, turn on just the ones that are bikes. That's pretty easy, right? You can turn off the accessories. Or we can look at the AS. So we can kind of start, again, being very interactive with the data. That's what we're doing when we start turning on all these different filters. Okay. Next, it says create a filter by year. So this is where I was telling you all, it may get a little bit goofy whenever because we turn it from a different type of category, and it has a way to kind of trigger back on that My Sheet. So let's go to year. And range of values. In the example, I believe it says 2010. Numlock. Here we go. Okay. And let's show that filter. And so now, this is where we're like a range per se, but we can't really select out a particular year. And that makes it a little bit problematic, right? So that's why walking you through, we need to make it more discrete and not continuous, right? So how do we do that? Okay. If we come over here to string, okay. It's the, oh, silly thing. I'm going to pause it so I get this error message off. Okay, finally got it off. So here's the thing though, when I converted it, it pulled it out of my filter, so I got to drag and drop it back. But now, since I've converted it to discrete, out of continuous, I've got all my values where I can select them, right? And let's turn this on, show filter. This is what makes it really cool if we want to look at a particular year, right? Now this is where I was telling you, this is going to mess with our sheet because we've already changed the value. It's no longer continuous. This is built on continuous. Okay. All right. So we're back to discrete. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to tell you about this before. No, we're good. All right. So as we move along, clear this out. That's good. Like I told you, the moment that we click this measure, it'll turn it to green. So we know it's discrete by the blue color, okay? So we're good. All right. All right, we are on page 12, down the home stretch. I've showed you a little bit over here whenever we want to kind of start toggling our filters on and off, right? So that's pretty easy to do. Nothing big there. We're going to look at a single value. It says change the year, okay, and select only 2009. Let's do that. I'm going to click all to turn them all off. And then that way we go straight to 2009. So there we go. Okay. And now we got a single value. And we can basically adjust it. If we want to hide the card, we can do that. Okay. All right. Moving on. Change the category. It says to a wild card. So let's do that. And what this is demonstrating is if we just want to look for bike, right? So basically it's an override accessory. So let's go over here to wild card. If we type in bike, it's not key sensitive, so it doesn't matter if those have a capitalization in the bike or a lowercase. Basically, when we activated the wild card, that's what's happening. So, okay. Which we'll see more in your exercise and lab, which I'll do that. Whenever I hover over these particular charts, okay, this bar component, what you're seeing here is a tooltip, okay? We custom make those tooltips in subsequent times together, right? So whenever we do the labs, but this is essentially what it is, the tooltip. And that's what that's demonstrating whenever we look at number 20. What if we want to add a little color to this? Okay, it's talking about on 21, if we drop the sales organization. Okay, so if we drop this to here, we can add a little color to make it look a little prettier, right? So it's not just all blue. And that's what's going on there. Okay, we're changing basically the bar color. Lastly, what if we would like to change from bars to dots? Okay, we could change our label here, or we can go here to the marks like it's following. There's two different ways you can really do it. We want to come over here and make it look like squares or circles. We could do that. So we can add dots. Okay, we can turn on the values for that as well. So folks, that is, oh, before I adjourn with you, let me go back. Right, so we've got this year dilemma. We go back, year, and if we come back over whole, let it think, of course. It populates it back. So what did I do though, right? I went back and changed the variable type. Okay, so I took off a string. It's important for you to know to fix this. So you would notice, I'm like, well, hey, what happened to my year? How do I get this to stay? It's staying anchored on this side, but you look at it here, it's whole. So I adjusted it on my sheet, it adjusted it to this one too. So know that whenever, it doesn't really impact it a whole lot. Some of you are saying, well, is it still continuous? We essentially overrode it's discrete. Well, the answer is no. Once I made it to 2, I basically took away the discrete function. That's why it's disappeared. We don't have it over here to select from anymore, even though it's blued out, right? So we've taken away that filtering ability. So we'd have to go back and add it. Okay, string. It's going to think through it, and we're going to get the same error. So just know that whenever you're adjusting variables back and forth, the fix, you create a second one. You copy it, create a second variable, and just anchor that one to your bicycle sales volume. So call it year 2, and to create another one year 1 for my sheet. That's your workaround. And just know that you've got a different iteration of year being used on each sheet. You can manipulate it that way. Okay. And now we're back. So obviously I have to go back through and rebuild it, but hopefully that clears up some questions that if any of you have on this module, and that completes it. So signing off, and I'll have lab 1 a little bit later. Bye.